Come to Māori, I'm Alice Lolohea and you're watching The Pacific.
Half a day, I'm Johnson Raela, coming up on the show. A landmark treaty finally gets over the line.
What the Pacific really thinks about Australia's COP bid.
And we visit a treasure trove of Pacific recordings. Now, it's said that the Pacific Islands are made up of 2% land and 98% ocean. And with that comes responsibility for managing vast swathes of the moana. So, how do small island states protect such a massive area from illegal fishing? Reporter Chrisenrita Almani-Leong and producer Hugo Hodge have this story with support from Vanya Vieira.
In this little village along Timor-Leste's northern coast, Annibal's family has fished for generations.
I became a fisherman when I was young. Being a fisherman used to be an easy job to earn a good income.
But these days it's harder to make a living. Climate change has taken a toll, and so has illegal fishing. The village is less than 20 kilometers from the Indonesian border, and there's no formal maritime boundary between the two countries.
The reefs have been damaged and there's illegal fishing from people who come in and fish in vehicle without permission from the government.
The Pacific is often thought of as small islands, but really they are vast ocean states responsible for governing some of the world's most abundant marine territories. The ocean is a vital livelihood for the Pacific. Protecting it from illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, or more simply, IUU fishing, is a big task. But authorities have been cracking down on those caught stealing, and now the face of illegal fishing in the Pacific is changing.
Nama saya Arif Yoga Alfianto.
My name is Arif Yoga Arianto. I was arrested on 22nd October 2024 in Papuan waters.
My name is Sahril.
My name is Sahril. I've been in Bomana prison for 9 months.
These fishermen and their crew were charged with illegal fishing in PNG's waters. They are now serving 5-year prison sentences after failing to pay fines worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. 38 Indonesian fishermen have been locked up in this prison in the past year, their vessels confiscated and destroyed. They were all arrested in an area called the Dogleg. It's PNG's exclusive economic zone, but there is no formally agreed maritime border with Indonesia in this area.
Saya memasuki wilayah.
I didn't know the exact boundary of Papua New Guinea or which areas belong to Australia or Indonesia. We only entered the area using a compass with GPS, nothing else.
Paul Barker from the Institute of National Affairs says the Dogleg is prone to IUU fishing along the coastline and further offshore.
It's a difficult area to clearly designate and identify.
He says people on both sides of the border work in cahoots to supply markets in Asia.
They sometimes have connections with villages in coastal or island areas of PNG, and but they're very hard to monitor, especially when the villages themselves are not really reporting them, sometimes because they're trading with them, getting goods and other services from them.
The National Fisheries Agency told the ABC that it has full jurisdiction over the Dogleg area under international law.
By prosecuting and imprisoning foreign fishermen, especially in sensitive areas like the Dogleg area, PNG is reinforcing its sovereign rights over its exclusive economic zone. This is particularly important in regions near the Indonesia-PNG maritime border, where jurisdictional clarity is crucial.
The fact that Indonesia and Papua New Guinea have not yet formalized the agreement, it gives the hesitation or doubt for the law enforcement at sea, because they have to enforce the law according to the definitive agreement.
These men say they're just ordinary fishermen and that they've received no legal or financial support from the Indonesian government.
Our role just as employees, we gave everything we could to our boss. Our wives and children have nothing to eat. Please have pity on them.
I hope the Indonesian government or President Prabowo Subianto is willing to negotiate my case with the government of Papua New Guinea.
The Indonesian embassy did not respond to our questions. The Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries Agency supports 17 member countries in the region who make up 30% of the global tuna catch. At their headquarters in Honiara, I went to see their sophisticated surveillance center.
So what you're seeing there is every vessel which is transmitting on AIS. It's an automated information system, so it's a tracking system.
From this room, they've got eyes on a gigantic area of the Pacific Ocean.
One of the challenges is just the enormity of the Pacific, and our area of operation, what we're trying to surveil and conduct counter IU operations is 30 million square kilometres.
4 times a year, Pacific nations and their security partners take to the sky and ocean to locate and bust illegal fishing operations, with everything coordinated from here.
Each of those operations, we would identify somewhere between 8 to 12 vessels of interest, which we believe could be conducting IU fishing.
When we think of illegal fishing, we tend to think of dark ships from far-flung nations fishing without licenses. But that's increasingly rare these days. A report commissioned by the FFA found that unlicensed fishing only accounted for 5% of IUU fishing activity.
It used to be a bigger problem in the past. Now with the emerging technology that has helped us be able to keep tab on the activities out at sea.
The vast majority comes from licensed fishing vessels misreporting their catch. Mr. Pakop says his agency will help members prosecute those breaking the rules.
The end outcome is very important. That's where you get the deterrent effect.
Pacific nations have long struggled to generate more money from their fisheries. And it's clear to see on these supermarket shelves. A lot of this tuna is caught in the Pacific and processed elsewhere, only to be re-imported in cans. In fact, 60% of global tuna stocks are found in Pacific waters. Yet Pacific Island nations capture less than 10% of the final market value. But under the East New Britain initiative, FFA members are increasing regional processing.
Just imagine those catch are processed within and exported out of the country. The returns coming from that will double, will triple in many different forms.
Majuro is one of the world's largest tuna transshipment ports. Foreign fishing boats pay to fish in these waters and offload their catch to be transported out of the region for processing. But there's a new model revolutionizing the supply chain. Pacific Islands Tuna is a government venture employing local fishing crews who operate under strict catch reporting standards.
We're cutting out the middleman and selling the product directly to the retailers. And the retailers are happy to support the program because they know that the benefits are going directly to the resource owners.
Their catch is sold directly to Walmart and Costco, with 60% of profits going back to the government and the other 40% funding conservation projects. Currently, their tuna processing is in Thailand, but there's plans to bring this to the Pacific under the East New Britain initiative. Models like this one are seen as a paradigm shift happening in the region where Pacific nations are taking more control and ownership over the value chain, from the depths of the ocean to the supermarket shelves.
Let's now head to Alisi for some news and some breaking news from PNG.
Yes, that's right, Johns. Australia and Papua New Guinea have finally sealed the deal on an historic defence treaty. It was due to be signed when Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was in Port Moresby last month, but negotiations stalled. Known as the Puk Puk Treaty, it will see the two countries defend each other in the event of a military attack and allows Australia to recruit soldiers from PNG and vice versa. Papua New Guinea is now Australia's third formal military ally alongside the United States and New Zealand. And Bougainville's Ismail Toroama has been comfortably returned as president of the autonomous region for the next 5 years. Toroama won more than 90,000 votes in the presidential race, around 20,000 more than he needed, a ringing endorsement of his leadership as the autonomous region continues its push for independence from PNG.
Giving me this opportunity, it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to lead the liberal.
Speaking to NBC News, Toroama's Attorney General in the last Parliament, Ezekiel Masat, said solidarity within their Bougainville People's Alliance Party would be a priority as they continued crucial independence negotiations ahead of their self-imposed independence deadline of September 2027.
It's like we got plenty problem long leakage, long confidential documents from the Executive Council going up. Maybe been affecting adversely ability long kablania, long strategize.
The full 45-member parliament is set to be sworn in on October 10. And in the Federated States of Micronesia, a state of emergency has been declared after divers discovered a World War II shipwreck leaking toxic oil into Chuuk Lagoon. It's one of more than 60 historic sunken vessels in the popular tourist hotspot. A study of 20 of the lagoon's shipwrecks estimated that, given their natural rate of deterioration, the oil inside them was at risk of leaking within 5 to 10 years. And then this week, before the UN General Assembly,
just days ago, I was compelled to declare a national state of emergency due to an ongoing oil leak from a World War II sunken vessel in Chuuk Lagoon. These remnants of conflict pose new dangers as toxic oil seeps into our ocean.
The leaking ship, the former Japanese war vessel, the Rio de Janeiro Maru, is the first to experience a major leak, and experts have warned it may not be the last.
This is just the beginning. If this Australian study showed, their estimate is from 3.5 to 6 million gallons of oil still in our waters.
With the cleanup underway, the FSM government has requested assistance from both Australia and Japan. It's also campaigning to place the lagoon on the UNESCO World Heritage List to help bring more attention and resources to the cleanup effort.
Thanks, Alisi. Zooming out now to the diplomatic standoff between Australia and Turkey over who will host next year's UN Climate Conference. Australia has promised to host alongside the Pacific if its bid is successful. So, what could it mean for our communities on the front line of climate change to have such an historic event in our backyard? Reporter Jordan Fennell and producer Gabriella Marchant have this story.
2026 COP Summit.
COP26.
COP27. COP28 in Dubai.
Year after year, the annual UN COP climate conferences roll on and on. And they almost always take place far away from the Pacific, where communities are among those suffering the worst effects of climate change. But that could all change, with Australia in the running to host the conference next year for the first time. A conference responsible for the Paris Agreement and iconic quotes like this.
How dare you!
Australia has bid for the main event to be held in Adelaide, but specified it would host in partnership with the Pacific.
We are the clear choice for COP21.
So what could bringing the world's gaze to this region achieve? And how do Pacific nations feel about the proposal?
Rio and its
The UN's Conference of Parties, or COP events, began in the 90s. And though they've produced historic agreements, they haven't escaped criticism.
It is our very survival that is at stake.
Attendees have called out the inadequacies of agreements that fall short of what the science demands and the lack of accountability to ensure that countries meet emission reduction targets. Most recently, a loss and damage fund established to help nations on the front line of climate harm has been left significantly underfunded.
It really does bring into question whether or not COP is fit for purpose.
The climate crisis is the way it is today because of these systems that have been created to oppress people.
Joseph Zakulu is a long-time Tongan-Australian climate activist.
We decide what tomorrow is going to look like.
Today, he's working with locals in Fiji on climate justice efforts, but he's attended a number of past COPs.
My work over this last decade has been trying to find ways for our people to insert their voice into the COP process. A COP can be a very technical place and people are so far removed from the realities of our people every day, but it's the only mechanism available for the Pacific to advocate for everything we need to ensure our survival.
He says COPs can be a disappointing experience.
The hardest thing about the COP process is having to celebrate incrementalism, and every year all we ever see is like small shifts and small changes. And it's disheartening and it's heartbreaking. If you look at who has been driving the ambition within those negotiations, you will see that it's the Pacific. If anybody is owed a COP in this world, it's the Pacific.
He says this is especially true given how hard it is for Pacific Islanders to even get to these high-level talks.
The biggest downfall of the COP process and for our region is how much it costs to get our people there. And the thing is, if we're not part of this, we're invisible. And if we don't have the resources to get there, we're invisible.
The elusivity of promised climate finance.
For Coral Pasisi, the tyranny of distance has other disadvantages.
Our poor negotiators have to travel 3 days to get to these negotiations. They have by far the smallest teams there to negotiate. They're exhausted by the time they get there, and they're certainly exhausted by the time they leave. And I remember, over 20 years ago being in the room for 3 days without sleep because we just didn't have enough negotiators. By the end of it, we were just so exhausted we just said yes to what was on the table.
She says this fatigue extends to implementing policies, but new initiatives to increase access to finance for climate mitigation and adaptation are part of the solution.
The finance really underpins everything for us. We are facing now with the projections in sea level rise, for example, the loss of countries completely, the types of resource commitments that have been made. I think those ingredients bring us closer to finding some resolution.
For Ms. Pasisi, engaging young Pacific people in this complex process is key, and something Pacific Youth Council Chair Mahoney Mori is keenly aware of.
We place great value on our ocean. We need to localize it, localize the COP concept. Having pre and post COP conferences would really help, given there's so many travel barriers when it comes to participating.
He says accessibility must extend to climate finance as well.
In terms of climate finance mechanisms, at the moment, the bureaucratic climate financing has become a red tape for Pacific Island countries. We've got the passion, we've got the manpower, but we don't have the resources.
Pacific youth like Mahoney are continuing a fight begun long ago by leaders like former Kiribati President Anote Tong.
We endorse what it is that's here in front of us.
Mr. Tong says he's seen the power in showing decision makers climate impacts firsthand, including former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon during a visit to Kiribati.
His very words were this: I've listened to you speak year after year at the General Assembly, but I must admit I never ever truly understood until now.
But he warns convincing nations, especially large fossil fuel emitters, to act is never easy.
Oh, they come to these discussions from an economic perspective, whereas we come to these discussions from an issue of survival.
Last year, the Baku COP29 CEO was recorded planning to broker new oil and gas deals at the event.
I think greenwashing is possibly too nice a word for that. What basically it is just making false promises. We really have to scrutinize what it is that we're doing. Why are we hosting the COP? Is it for symbolism, or is it to solve and address the problem? But the question is, will Australia come in with and for the Pacific, or will it come in with its own political agenda?
And the Australian government has maintained it's committed to hosting COP31 and is working alongside Pacific nations to develop ambitious global action and investment goals.
Let's shift gears now, because every 2 years, the Winds of Zenat Cultural Festival is held in Zenat Gez, more commonly known as the Torres Strait Islands. And our very own ABC News Breakfast, Nate Byrne, was there and, on our behalf, caught up with the Torres Strait Island Council's first ever female mayor.
The crossover you didn't know you needed, but you do. News Breakfast meets the Pacific. I want to introduce you to a self-described TI girl, Vonda Malone, who joins me now. Vonda, a very big welcome to the Pacific.
Oh, wow, it's really good to be here and to be talking to you, Nate.
You are such an incredible person. I mean, first female mayor, all of the work with international women's rights and work. What's the thing that you think we need to be focused on right now in 2025?
Obviously, being in the position of breaking those glass ceilings and creating pathways has been my legacy, and to enable us women, particularly Torres Strait voices, to be at the table. And I think we've come a long way, but at the same time, there's still a lot to do, and that's the space that I'm working in, is also taking that out of nationally and internationally as well, and working with our other Pacific nation, because we do have a lot of similarities, as you know, but then also our unique issues in itself as well.
Yeah, and your unique cultures, but you're all under similar threats in some ways, particularly when it comes to climate change.
I feel that the Torres Strait voices have been, silenced in a lot of ways, because it's become inundated with everyone has the same issues around climate change. We're now in it. How do we build resilience? How do we ensure that we can still remain on our communities? Because no one wants to be removed from their island communities. So the push is to have more place-based approaches and solutions around maintaining our communities, our culture, to be also able to continue to work and live in our communities.
I am so excited to be here for this festival. What does it mean for the entirety of the Torres Strait to have this huge event?
This event brings all our island communities together to unite here on Thursday Island, Waibeni, and it really allows us to showcase our beautiful and thriving culture.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Pacific. I think Alice and Johns are very jealous of us. Should we say goodbye? Yawo!
Yawo to you.
Now, there's no doubt Pacific people love music, and there's also something special about hearing and singing old traditional songs. It just hits different.
Well, in Sydney, there's actually an archive of thousands of recordings of Pacific people's language and music. Our reporter Lucy Cooper went along to hear how it's helping reconnect communities through the generations.
We call ourselves the PNG Peroveta Singers of Canberra. It really started in the 80s. So a lot of the PNG women who married Australians, so when independence came, then they decided to leave PNG and come with their husbands to live in Australia. And so in Canberra, they wanted to still connect and keep the PNG style of singing, the Peroveta singing, which was introduced by the Polynesian missionaries in the 1880s.
Paraveta singing and other Pacific recordings that date back decades are being archived here in Sydney at the Pacific and Regional Archive for Digital Sources in Endangered Cultures, or Paradisic, which was established over 20 years ago.
In our collection at the moment, there are recordings in more than 1,370 different languages. There are many, many languages spoken in the Pacific region, something around 4,000, and a huge number of those are represented in our collection. I've just zoomed into the Pacific here so you can see how many of the recordings are focused on this particular region. And then when we go into individual records, we get a description of what's on those recordings.
Well, firstly, we are blessed with an archive like Paradisic. It's a digital archive, and our role is to basically disseminate that out to communities. A lot of it is about relearning, reliving, and the emotional discoveries that come out of all those recordings. As Pacific people and as Indigenous people, music, language is central. It's in the heartbeat of our people. And maintaining them, revitalizing that culture, and maintaining the language is important.
The collaboration between the PNG Paraveta Singers of Canberra and Paradisic have brought back memories of home.
So when Paradisic got me to listen to some of those, then we got our Paraveta group to match what those villagers were singing, and we were able to sing them in languages they were singing in. Some of them are so moved every now and then they burst into tears because they recall the times when they were small in their villages, and this is where Paradisic is very important for us. And as a librarian and archivist, I see, great way of preserving those languages that we have lost.
Well, that's our show for this week. For more news from across the region, check out ABC Pacific on digital platforms. Mate good spaka for watching.
To take us out, the PNG football queen herself, Mary Fowler, becoming the first professional footballer to hit the runway at Paris Fashion Week.